So thank you so much for taking time this afternoon to be together. And this is really an opportunity for us to connect and do something that the foundation has never done before, bringing kind of a region-wide, everybody who's across the region together, who are kind of, you are our ambassadors out in our community, our most active ambassadors who are really looking to cultivate that sense of community, but also really support the charities within your community. And we are so, so grateful to each one of you for the work that you do, the dedication, the commitment that you have to us as a foundation and to the charitable sector in your community. It's really, really wonderful. And what we are wanting to do tonight is really just an opportunity to bring the different committees together. I know that you kind of rely on me and Brian to kind of tell you what other people are doing and what the other committees are doing. But I just thought there'd be real value in being able to share that information and exchange those ideas kind of firsthand for you to be able to hear from the others and be able to kind of, again, be able to brainstorm together. The reason why we have local community funds is because each community is so unique, and each of you, have a real sense of place within your local community, but there is also some really great ideas that I think that can be transferable no matter where you're coming from. And those are some of the ideas that I would love to kind of share, but also to really for everyone to kind of be aware that you're part of something bigger. We're part of something that is region wide, that we represent both our individual communities, but we're all contributing to something that's impacting the larger community and our whole region. And I think that there's something hopefully invigorating about that, that it's often easy to kind of feel like we're in our own little silos, but take the opportunity to kind of connect you back to, I think Brian is the one who coined this term, the mothership. We'll connect you all, bring you all back together so that you kind of can get that grounding again of why we are doing the work that we are doing out in the community. So I'm going to stop rambling and give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to call on a name, and if you could just introduce yourself as to who you are, what community you are from, and one of the things, if you have prepared a favorite restaurant in the region that you have loved to go to. So I'll put you on the spot if there is something. I'll start with the restaurant piece. So my favorite restaurant that I have come to love over this pandemic, because they do really great takeout, is a restaurant downtown St. Catharines called In Coho. And they are kind of farm to table restaurant that has just been fantastic, fabulous food, and also fair pricing, which is also always a bonus. So Sharon, you're first on my screen, so I'll call on you first.
Sharon Swab. I'm from Wainfleet, and my favorite, or the restaurant I've enjoyed the most, or was most pleased with in some ways, are our little restaurants in Wainfleet. One of them, the 2x4 Diner, did dinners for 4 on Friday night, full dinners for 4 people for like $44. Like it was, it was really nice. So we have a couple people that join us on Friday nights during the pandemic because they were isolated. And so we did Friday night dinners.
That's awesome. That's great. Claudia, you're next on my screen.
I'm Claudia Brem. I'm from Port Colborne. And we don't do takeout. We have Dante's place. I don't cook. My husband does all the cooking. But if we had to choose one, I think San Marcos on Clarence Street. We hope to go there in a couple of days. It will be our anniversary. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great.
I don't know who you congratulate, Dante or I.
Debbie?
Debbie Pratt from the Niagara on the Lake Fund. We're 5 years old and very proud of that. my favorite restaurant in Niagara-on-the-Lake is the Garrison House. Just very creative and very support local drinks, wine and beer and food. And they have the best prime rib Sunday dinner you can ever get.
Awesome. That's great. Mike?
Mike Burles, Niagara-on-the-Lake as well. Yeah, Debbie stole some of my thunder there because I think Garrison and Ruffino's are two restaurants that were able to pivot very quickly during this pandemic and just found a niche in terms of takeout and a number of other sort of areas of entrepreneurship, which I really admired. But I've got to admit that I went to a lot of restaurants with takeout, as many as I could. So. Yeah, we've tried to support all the local restaurants and wineries and breweries at the same time, which has become very difficult in a full-time occupation. So.
And they much appreciated, I'm sure. Pat?
Patrick Brabant. I'm with the Grimsby Community Fund, and I have to say the favorite place for my family and I to go is the Lake House in Vineland. Just great food. My son's picky, and there's even stuff for him there. Even the children's menu is fantastic. So, if you're ever craving paella, that's the place to go for sure.
Great. Don?
Wow. I'm Don. I'm from Grimsby, but I have to admit that I split my time between Grimsby and Wainfleet, and therefore my favorite restaurants are all over the place. I just I had one of those birthdays that you have to celebrate, and we purchased a progressive dinner.
What was that, 25, Don? 25?
Yeah, 25 again. And we purchased a progressive dinner in Port Colborne in a limousine that Larry Boggio put together. And we had a great time at San Marcos and the Flying Squirrel and Breakwall Brewery and oh my goodness, one of my favorites, the fusion. Oh my goodness, my mind is lost. The fusion, Thai fusion.
Oh, is it the Buddha? Something Buddha?
Smoking Buddha. The
Yeah,
Buddha.
yeah.
So we had a great time doing that. But in Grimsby, my go-to is my favorite local, which is the Judge. I'm at the Judge and Jester, and you can find me there a lot.
That's great. And also happy birthday. Being 25 feels good. Gary.
Hi, my name's Gary Talasi. I live in Welland, born and raised there, but have worked in Port Colborne since 1995. And so I'm on the steering committee for the Port Colborne Community Fund. And you don't want to hear San Marcos mentioned a third time. So as far as favorite restaurant, I guess I should go to Welland then. And let me see, probably the Terrace, which is along the canal right at West Main Street in Welland. Great restaurant.
Awesome. Andrea.
Hello, I'm Andrea Pichet, and I'm also from the Grimsby Community Fund. Our family's favorite place to go that kind of crowd pleases for my husband and I and our two boys is Pisa in Niagara-on-the-Lake. We were introduced to Pisa through Mark Piccone, who had some of his students sort of take on some heavy roles there, and so he treated us there one night, and now my kids can't get enough. But as far as our local, we have a favorite takeout, and that's Indian Hut. We moved here from Toronto 6 years ago, and so we can't get enough of our ethnic diverse foods, and Indian Hut has nailed it.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Amanda?
Sorry, unmute. Amanda Piper, I'm also from the Grimsby Fund, so we're well represented here. I'm probably the longest standing member of the Grimsby Community Fund because I think I've been on it pretty much since the beginning. And favorite restaurant, I'm not a big foodie. I don't eat out a lot, but similar to Dawn, I have a soft spot for the Judge and Jester downtown. I can walk there. My late husband actually grew up with the owner, so we've always had a sort of an affinity there. So yeah, that's where I would go.
Fabulous. Wonderful. Brian, favorite restaurant?
Yeah, I guess our family, we love sushi. So Chef Martin's Sushi, it's kind of like Grimsby, Stony Creek area. That's an amazing spot. And then local here, because we live in Beamsville. It's actually it's called the Local Food and Drink. It's right at the corner of Victoria and Highway 8. So great. And they, do a great job. My kids love it because they get like a little sundae with chocolate sauce,
Nice.
even in takeout. So they're easily bribed. That's right. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, guys. That sounds great. We should start like a restaurant recommendation list, that we can all.
While we're recording this, we'll write all of them down and send out the links. So.
That's right. That's great. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to provide a little bit of an update to everybody. I'm going to share my screen where I'm going to pass the mic, so to speak, to Brian, and he's going to provide a bit of an update as to how where we're at from the foundation's perspective, and then we're going to kind of share the stage with all of you guys to share a little bit about each of the committees. Can everyone see my screen here? Should be.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Brian, why don't you take over?
Great. Well, first and foremost, thanks. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you everyone for setting this up and participating. It's really good for the soul to see all of your faces. It's been a couple of months, and we just really appreciate all that you've continued to do for us in each of your communities. And it's just really good to see friendly faces. So that's great. 2020 and the start of 2021 has been a bit of a whirlwind for the foundation, but in many really positive ways. So hopefully everybody received their annual report. This is the copy of it. So a lot of this great information is in there on some great donor stories and granting stories. So 2020 was our 20th anniversary. Suzanne put together this great series of video vignettes that we sent out through social media in November of last year that were really great. We had one of our largest granting year in our history, with over $3 million granted to charities, mainly here in Niagara. This was due to the leadership of our board of directors in 2020 voting on a 4.5% dispersal. As many of you know, CRA regulates that we have to do at least a minimum of 3.5, but recognizing how much demand and need there was in the community, our board decided on a 3.5% dispersal for 2021. Sorry, a 4.5 in 2021. We voted on a 4% dispersal, so still did a lot of work in getting money out. We 18 new endowment funds, which is great. Total assets at the end of the year was 65 million. I'm happy to say that year to date, we are now closer to 71 million. We received a $5 million estate planning gift through one of our external fund manager program portfolio managers, and that money will actually go to mainly environmental programming, which is great. We were able to respond to the needs of the community, $300,000 to support the COVID response. And then we also were very busy in deploying $1.5 million through government programs through the federal government. So that was a lot of work done by Joanne, mainly in getting that money out.
So excuse me, Brian, are you taking questions partway through, or?
Sure, Gary. Yeah, feel free.
So the 1.5 million through the federal government programs was not part of the 3 million. That was in.
Oh, it wasn't. No, that's right, Gary. Yeah, so it was 3 million of NCF fund holder money, and then on top of that was the 1.5. So
I think that's correct. An important distinction, because if someone thinks, well, 3 million, but 1.5 million of that came from the federal government, that's a totally different picture than what actually happened. So.
Definitely. That's an excellent point, Gary. So yeah, all in all, we were able to deploy $4.5 million into the community in 2020. Yeah, so yeah, I guess I stole my own thunder. 2021 shaping up to be really great. You know, we have a massive staff, as you know, of 4 people. Half of them are on this Zoom call right now. Joanne Crick and Orla are our 2 other colleagues. After exemplary service over, well, I think Orla's in her 15th year and Joanne, I believe, is in her 14th year. Was able to provide them with some new job titles and promotions for their amazing work, not only last year, but over their tenure with the foundation. We launched a really great program. Maybe Suzanne can fill you in a little bit later on Flood Ontario in April. And as I said, our total assets now year to date are $71 million, thanks to that the gift of $5 million that came in. I'm going to say about March, April, or spring last year. So yeah, Suzanne, over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, just to wrap up kind of this NCF updates, we also embarked this year on doing a review of our communications and our communication and marketing strategies. Very pleased to say that we do now have an official communication strategy document that we are working on and providing a bit of a roadmap as we kind of continue to mature as an organization, as we continue to bring some things in-house as well, some more of our communications, allowing it to kind of be more controlled internally, which is exciting. And we're also, as part of that strategy and as part of that review, we hired an external firm to help us with that review and really connect with some stakeholders, as well as reviewing other community foundations, et cetera. And one of the very first steps of that was a recommendation to do a bit of a refresh of our NCF visual brand, as well as our online presence, namely our website and social media. So over the next little bit, you will be working really hard internally to go through that process, to do that refresh, that brand refresh, as well as kind of revamping and redoing our website. So expect some changes in the next, I'm going to be generous and say 6 months or so while we continue to do that. So that was really an exciting way of, again, part of that communication review. And part of that as well is really being able to provide you as our local community funds with some real great material, collateral, things that really you can use out into the community, and providing you with, whether that's key messaging, storytelling, really be able to equip you with the tools that you need to really feel that you can be ambassadors in our community successfully. So that's all going to be rolling out in the next little bit. And I'm really excited to be spearheading that for the foundation and being the one that's going to be kind of taking the lead on this project. And so you'll see more communications from me, and possibly as well some more engagement and feedback from you guys as real key stakeholders in our community and as ambassadors, to get your feedback as we do that work. So that's a bit about us. Any other questions of clarification or things that you're curious about?
I must admit, go ahead.
I was just going to say, can you explain what Unflood Ontario is?
Sure. Yes, of course. Yeah. Unflood Ontario is an initiative that we launched in the spring, and it was an opportunity that we had. Well, it's been in development actually for a number of years, where we, in partnership with our colleagues at the Durham Foundation and the Toronto Foundation, we wanted to come together. We were invited by the Great Michigan Foundation. I get the acronym all incorrect every time. It was a binational initiative, really identifying, how do we engage in the Great Lakes, and specifically within the environmental sector? What ways can we as community foundations play a role in the conversation, and how do we continue to engage our community in this ever-pressing, really important conversation around climate and the environment? And so the three of us foundations here around Lake Ontario decided to take up the challenge and create a bit of an initiative around flooding, specifically looking at the flooding and the impacts of flooding around Lake Ontario. And as we are, we as a community in Niagara have 2 Great Lakes that we have on our shores, recognizing that flooding is a significant issue for many of our communities and is something that our communities are impacted by in many different ways. So this year we launched the campaign, which was primarily a communications campaign, where we put together in partnership with our colleagues again, and the project, I should make mention, is managed by the Small Change Fund. And so we have some project managers from Small Change, and did this public engagement campaign where we created some really, really engaging how-to videos about natural infrastructure. So natural infrastructure is a tool that we can use to help mitigate the effects of flooding, and that we can use to really make a positive impact in our communities. So we created 5 how-to videos, from things as simple as rain barrels to rain gardens, to depaving, planting trees, trying to make it as accessible as possible, where residents could say, oh yeah, I could do that. And that actually will have a really positive impact on my community. So we did that, as well as kind of more of a PSA kind of a video that we were able to distribute. So it was marketing, kind of getting the name out there, getting the initiative out there with the goal of raising awareness about the impacts of natural infrastructure and its abilities to mitigate the effects of flooding. We, as kind of the core team who's working on this from the foundation's perspective, are now kind of brainstorming next steps. Where do we take this initiative from here? We've gotten the name out there to some extent, and it's been really encouraging, actually, just to get some local individuals, residents who have heard about it, to kind of reach out and say, how can I get involved? So we're kind of brainstorming, trying to think of identify the strategy for us moving forward. So you can expect some further updates probably in the new year, where we'll be able to start to think about the rollout for phase 2 of that campaign. So if you want more information, go to our website. There is a link there, and happy to provide any more clarification there. Debbie, go ahead.
I first of all noted that you said that there was a $5 million donation on environment with regards to environmental initiatives. So do you think that Unflood sparked that donation?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a connection there, Debbie. I wish I could say that there was. The donation and the rollout were almost simultaneous. So
okay.
Yeah, but it was honestly, it was a fund holder that was very passionate about environmental causes. So I don't think the two are connected.
And my second question on that, because I obviously have read everything and we've had previous discussions on it, is part of the strategy to go to each of the councils and the municipalities and present it individually, and then have examples of things that, like, there's core things that all of the municipalities can pay attention to. But I mean, I know of some in Niagara-on-the-Lake, obviously, that are dear to me, but dear to a lot of people. But I just was hoping that you would have a presentation to each of the municipalities for the suggestions, the bit about the repaving and the rainforest aspect, and in Niagara-on-the-Lake, the clear cutting and anything to do with trees being removed, the tree removal aspect, where you lose the root systems and all of that. So I'm just hoping that that's part of your strategy, and would love to be a part of any further discussions on that, just as far as what else could be included in that.
We have had a little bit of that, Debbie. We actually had a few of the municipalities partner with us early on in the development of the Unflood campaign, which was great. Not all of them. And then the region of Niagara has actually contacted us and offered to sort of be a partner, which is great. Of course, they contacted us after this all happened. So we reached out to them and said, hey, how'd you like to be part of this? And then it wasn't until our whole campaign was over, they're like, can you make a presentation now? And and that's been delayed twice. So
Well,
so we're trying. We are trying.
Yeah, no, as long as it's out there and that, but I just see how it's so important to all of us. And again, people don't understand why, as we talked about initially, why it's part of the community foundation. But again, simply people who want their funds to go to those initiatives, it's linking further beyond what people think is the typical.
Right.
And I
And
think
fund.
that, again, just to tie it back to your earlier question, it's been helpful just for us to engage in this conversation, be able to put ourselves kind of, as you said, and what we've said in previous conversations, it's a new kind of territory for the foundation, right?
Yeah.
It's something that it's a part of a conversation that's happening in the community that we haven't really had a really good hook to figure out ways that we can really engage. And so even now with this new grant, or sorry, with this new fund, being able to, it kind of, again, provides a bit of a platform for us to now further engage within that sector and be able to really start to, get our feet wet, no pun intended, within this environmental sector. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's great.
for the sake
Thank
of
you.
time, I'm going to move on to some of the updates. I want to keep this within the
Quick
hour.
question. Can I ask a question?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Claudia.
I don't have the hand symbol on my, anyway. Can you disclose if everyone present, each one of their communities was on board?
Sorry?
Can you disclose to us, because not every community was on board, everyone that's here today, did their community respond positively to this environmental thing? I'm trying to get the scoop, that's all.
Yeah. Who did we have, Suzanne? We had St. Catharines, Lincoln,
Fort Erie. Those were the three main that engaged with us primarily, like near the start. So we have had, it's been exciting. Have I frozen?
Oops.
That's
interesting.
That's a bit unsettling, because our Lake Erie, I live across the street from Lake Erie. Our Lake Erie is eroding our shoreline. All the trees are gone in the last 2 years because of the horrific storms we've experienced. And our trees in town are getting cut down as we speak. I think there were 3 sites today that I saw tree removal going on. And these things need to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
You would have had on the South Shore, like certainly some Fort Erie. The Fort Erie group came to the table for the same reasons, Claudia.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as Suzanne said, we were in an early on in this. I had to explain to some of our American counterparts that where Niagara is, we were actually on 2 Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And so, so that what they said to me was, "Oh, well, you just worry about Lake Ontario. We'll take care of Lake Erie."
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sure. So I literally had to draw them a map. Anyways.
Yeah, there's lots that we can talk, and clearly there's some interest here as well around
Yeah.
the conversation, which is fabulous. And I'm going to move on to the next piece of our time tonight together, and to talk a little bit more, give you guys space to talk about, whoops, I went too far here. Oh, hold on. There we go. Okay, sorry. About our local community funds and what you have all been doing. So I'm going to pass it on to each of the chairs or representative of the committee to kind of just give a little bit of an update as to what you were doing throughout this pandemic over the last year and a half. So focusing on that 2020 and 2021 years. So we do have, as you know, 11 local community funds across Niagara. And we, however, have only 4 active community fund committees. So as we have all represented here this evening, for Colborne, Wainfleet, Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Grimsby. And I just want to, again, thank you personally for continuing to meet and pivoting. All of you pivoted to being on an online virtual forum. And that was very, very, really, really wonderful to be able to continue to stay connected And unfortunately, you know, we had all hoped that this fall we would be reconvening in person again, but it looks like we're going to be going through another season of having these virtual meetings. But again, it's really a great privilege to have all of these committees working and active. And hopefully, you know, the goal would be eventually that we would have other communities from the other municipalities who would be inspired and wanting to also do the great work that you're doing out into the community. So I'm going to first pass it on to Claudia. Do you want to talk about Port Colborne and what initiative you had done this past year?
That letter seems so tiny. The last time we met, we decided to send out a letter to prospective want to be engaged in the foundation. Each member, but I think one who opted out of it, were to mail the letter with a personal note and then touch base with them. In another week, we have a meeting and we'll find the outcome. We gave the committee the whole summer to work on this or to even meet up with people. As you know, it's very difficult to be in contact with people. So that's about all. Gary, have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so, Claudia. I think that's an accurate summary of where we're at with this project. I don't think we're in a position to measure any successes or failures from it yet, but as Claudia mentioned, we'll be meeting in the next week or two and may have something to report at that time.
Thank you.
I'll just add that this list was something that the committee had
Sure.
been generating for quite some time to really try to bring together that prospects list, and that those individuals had been, you know, they all were individuals that they had a personal relationship with. So each committee member took, you know, we reviewed that list of 50 plus people. Each committee member assigned, you know, said, okay, I'll take that person. I know them, I have a relationship with them. And so it was really, the goal was to really have it be a personal kind of ask, so to speak, or just really a soft way of welcoming conversation. So it accompanied the annual report. So the letter and the annual report went hand in hand together and was either, again, delivered or was sent in the mail with that personal note from the committee member. So it was, again, it was a process of developing that list and then assigning that to each of the committee members and putting that out there.
I think Andrea had a question. Is that right, Andrea?
Yes, thanks, Gary. I was just curious between yourself and Claudia, if you had any lessons learned of just the process of putting this together. So if, let's say, the Grimsby Community Fund were to want to replicate this approach, what would you caution us to do in terms of, you know, the way the letter is crafted, the way that you engage the other community members, you know, any sort of just general lessons learned?
Do you want the good part first or the bad part? We had a committee member that had contact with quite astute, actually, quite astute citizens of Port Colborne. And he wasn't received well at all. In fact, he was kind of bullied, told not to ever contact them again, which was surprising to us. So yes, we looked at that list, we critiqued that list, and then we thought, nah, some were eliminated, most stayed intact. And again, I can tell you myself right now, I immediately went to each other's house, all those houses, with a note in that and put it in their mailbox. They didn't even know I was there, but I signed the note and I haven't had any responses at all, which bothers me to a point, but at least tell me that you received it and not at this time. So now we have a dilemma, I would imagine next week, we're gonna have a dilemma. Do we remove them? Do we try again? I know one member of our committee thought this wasn't the time during COVID. Let's just get over COVID. Well, I believe COVID is on the books for the rest of our lives. Just like TB and polio are popping back. But you can't stay spinning your wheels and not trying to move forward. So we thought it was okay. Good luck.
Andrea, I might suggest that, you know, in the process of this project, I would think we might be only about 33% complete. So some of the questions you asked, I think answers may come at the 66% or 75% complete time. The other thing is maybe some of you know of other community funds that have tried this approach. Maybe we should have gotten some advice before we stepped out as far as we did, but.
No, I think it's a sort of ubiquitous strategy, but I don't know that any one of us has done it in the same way, right? So like in the Grimsby Community Fund, you know, we talked about, you know, finding, you know, people who help with retirement planning, you know, finding, what's the word, like allied professionals who, you know, would already have a reason or to have conversations about legacy planning, and, you know, trying to think about how could we put something together that was like a file folder that had all the right information that they could share easily, prepackaged, so when they were having conversations with their clients, they could provide them a service with value add through NCF, right? But that never really took hold. Like, I don't know of any instance where an allied professional, you can tell what industry I often work in, you know, would actually make the choice to invest. So, you know, very similar to this strategy where you're, you know, virtually or through paper shaking hands with somebody and saying, hey, I know you and I think your values align with this and just wanted you to know that there's an opportunity here for you. But, you know, we're also seeing that strategy hasn't taken off for us. But again, you know, we're none of us are marketing managers or, you know, or that sort. So are we just going about it the wrong way?
Mm-hmm.
Gary, I can speak to this. We have a member that's a lawyer. We have a member like Gary here that's a wealth management planner. And I know it's part of their day to speak about the foundation to their clients. So we do have that. Gary, you want to add to that?
I wouldn't have considered this noteworthy and something I should mention at the meeting today, but Brian can attest to the fact that about a month ago, I called him about two of my clients whom I had spoken to who are interested in starting funds, one in Port Colborne and one in Welland. So when you say, you know, that it might be easier for people who are in a profession like mine, I can't disagree with you, Andrea. Although my first experience with the Community Foundation, when I was approached by Liz Palmieri, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, was why would I do that and take assets out of my own financial planning practice? But that was it's not a rookie mistake because I'd been in the business 15 or 20 years already, but it was kind of a short-sighted look at it. And Liz continued to drip on me, and finally she convinced me that this could play a role in my practice rather than being a negative for it. So
if I could just make a comment, I think the initiative is actually quite positive, but obviously you're not getting reaction right away. But this is not an initiative where you should be expecting immediate results from, in my opinion. I think it's you're getting the word out, you're educating people, you're letting them know about the fund. It's a thought process that each individual is going to have to go through for their own whatever their lifestyle and wherever they are in their life. But it's not something that's a quick decision-making thing. So it's not like selling a widget. It's a long-term thing. And I think our biggest issue in Niagara-on-the-Lake is just to get the word out and to educate people about the fact that this fund is here and this is what it can be used for and this is what it can be of a long-term game rather than trying to get quick results. And I think that's one of the things we try to always look at the quick results, and it's frustrating and disappointing when one doesn't get that. But I believe you're on the right track. I think you've got 50 people out there that have got the message, and presumably there are 50 people that have been identified as being people that are likely to think about this in the longer term. So I think it's a positive thing.
Great points, Mike.
Yeah.
Just to add to Mike, with the Niagara-on-the-Lake Fund, is two things. One, that we looked at the power of the committee members and to make it as a casual approach, that if more of them knew we were involved with this, they would approach us at the post office at Value Mart and just say, hey, can I call you? I understand you're involved with this. So everything that Mike spearheads and puts together, we always list the committee members, always. And then in the newsletters, we put our pictures in there. So the personalization that's already been mentioned with your letter, that was one of the ways that we looked at that. And the second was we encouraged every committee member to put at the bottom of their personal address, I mean, because most of us are retired now, so we can do it, is that we are a member of the Niagara-on-the-Lake Fund for the Niagara Community Foundation. And so I've gotten back emails from people and they say, oh, Debbie, you're involved with this. So it was very subtle, but every email I send out has one line that says, I'm a committee member of this. And it sort of gets the message out in a casual way. And as Mike said, it's long-term and then it sinks in. And but I think those are two things to add on to what Mike said.
This is great. Really, really good discussion, and being able to kind of go off of each other, the different ideas. So I think that's going to happen some more here. Let's carry on to Wainfleet. And Sharon, if you want to share, the committee in Wainfleet is a small committee. Sharon and Kelly and Dan, sorry. And so they're a small but mighty group there. And this year we tried something we've never done before with the social media. So do you want to share a little bit about that, Sharon?
So Wainfleet being a large area and a small population, it's a community where you either have a small business in Wainfleet, it might be a farm or lots of small businesses, or you work somewhere else. So so for us, I think it's mostly the sense of getting the word out that the community foundation touches Wainfleet too, and trying to build that relationship, that back and forth slowly, but let them know what the community foundation is doing for them. We did a holiday greeting card type thing, mostly email. In the bottom of the letter part, there was a second page that told about how the impact the community foundation had on Wainfleet. One of the big ones that was very well received was the funding that was given to help build a cenotaph in Wainfleet. And since Wainfleet is a large farming community with Dutch background, really, really well received type of thing. So we just tried to remind them of the things that the funds from the community foundation had done in Wainfleet. So I think it's mainly building that relationship. and just tried to share the facts. I think the holiday greeting cards went over very well. And it's just like small little ways to interact. We had done a bit of public things that we have a small Wainfleet market, and we had been out to the market last year. We didn't do it this year. But we went out to the market and shared the annual report. And we've done a lot of things with Meridian. The display in the Meridian bank that's in, or credit union, sorry, that's in the village. So we have a sign that goes up, and we put the annual reports out, and so that's small ways, but I think it's basically building that relationship that people know about us. And I'm thinking in listening to the Unflood, Wainfleet has huge shoreline and on Lake Erie, and I think that that is another way that we can touch people in Wainfleet, because as soon as they look, they're concerned about, as Claudia said in Port Colborne, we're concerned about the damage and the flooding that's changing the shoreline. And so that's something they would then be able to relate to, and then relate to us.
Yeah.
That's great. We also, one of the things too, that with the social media, that was the first time that we as a foundation really did a social media ad. We did a promotion of that holiday greeting directed specifically to the Wainfleet community. And then we also had the township, they actually shared that as well, which was really great. So that was a partnership that was able to be developed, where we were able to talk to the town, ask them if they'd be willing to share that holiday greeting. And they also posted it on their social media as well. So again, that was a great opportunity to build that partnership. And again, that awareness, right, in the community, and making people aware that that the Wainfleet Fund exists, and it's there, and it's there serving the community. So that was really, really good work there.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Okay, so Night on the Lake, there was a lot of documents here that I had to screenshot onto this slide. Mike, I'll let you take over.
All right. Well, I think it's interesting to me that what we're all trying to do is just to get the word out and to educate people and to let people know that we're here and the fund is there. So we continue to. We've got 9 active committee members, as it says. We were happy to be celebrating our 5th year anniversary on 2021. So we use that as an impetus to create a newsletter. And get the word out that there was 5 years of history, and in that we also used it to go to the 2 local newspapers and again sort of use that as a bit of a buzz to get people to put some articles in, and we were able to get a couple of articles in the papers, and we made a presentation to local council as well, all around the idea that we've had 5 years now, and this is what we're kind of celebrating. And to that end, I think we were successful, and certainly somewhat successful in getting the word out. And as Debbie will attest, I mean, I was actually surprised at the number of people that came to me in the weeks or so afterwards, saying, I didn't know you were involved in that, and I didn't even know about it. And so that's, to me, I thought that's very positive. The fact that they now know means that we actually have some moderate success. Now, the next step is, how do we keep them interested and keep them going for the future, and also, create a fund. But we had a reasonably busy year, even though it was all done virtually, and we tried to sort of take advantage of the 5-year anniversary, and I think that's really what spearheaded our initiative. But they are similar to the letters that you wrote and the Christmas cards you sent out, so they're similar in that we're just trying to get the word out to a group of people that hopefully will continue to spread the word as well. So yeah, I think it was. I don't know, Debbie, if there's anything you wanted to add. to that?
No, I agree with everything that you've highlighted. I think maybe it just at this point bring up the fact that, and we all probably face this, but the word foundation is used by so many people. And an example in Niagara-on-the-Lake is that a group that's been around for a long time is the Niagara Foundation. And so not knowing every other community's foundations, I still think that one of our challenges is to distinguish between the community, Niagara Community Foundation and the Niagara Foundation. And so this is when Mike said more people are aware of us. When we started, a lot of people said, oh, Debbie, you're involved with the Niagara Foundation and so whatnot. So I think, again, keep in mind the other organizations in your community that have foundation on them and make sure that you're distinguishing from here, from with the individual group. And the second part is I love the two-tiered aspect of what we're all given. We drive from our committees, our local initiatives and information and successes. And to the point that Sharon made is to let people know what the money's doing for our community. But we have to continue having it as two-tiered so that it links with the bigger picture. And so with every one of our messages, how do we do both? How do we give the community, immediate community, the immediate information of what's helping that community, but link it to the bigger picture? Because when the David Howe's money came in, that changed it for all of us. And that 18 million that was added in there, that helped all of us. So we were all doing our jobs in our communities. But I think when I would talk to people and link in the 18 million and the story behind that, it just gave it more power and more impact. So so that would be the only thing I would add to Mike's, is that, again, we've all got the same challenges, but if we looked at it as two-tiered and get those messages out there on the two levels and keep the messages short, concise, and to the point.
Karen, go ahead.
I was going to say one of my favorite things is impactful statements, which is what you're saying. Is I would say to people that I'm, a volunteer with the Niagara Community Foundation. And at the time I was on the board for 6 years. So, but I would say, so how much money do you think the Community Foundation has? And at that time it was like 60 million. And they would say, oh, 4 or 5 million. I said, $60 million, whose assets from that, the interest and how it's set up, goes back into Niagara every year. So I always found an impactful statement usually got their attention. And then you can go on to say what's, like you say, what's closer to home.
Yeah.
That's really great.
A lot of power there with the second tier.
Absolutely. Grimsby, do you want to finish us off with this update? Don, I'll pass it.
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We have 10 active great committee members, and we have endeavored to keep things going as long as we could during the pandemic. We hosted one of the things that we're challenged with, I want to give a little background. One of the things that I think we're challenged with in Grimsby is that there are 2 or 3 very successful nonprofit organizations that do wonderful things, but get a lot of the focus in Grimsby. And I think that one of the challenges for us has been our identity, creating an identity and really promoting ourselves. So one of the things that we decided was that one of the ways that we could identify ourselves or promote ourselves was to create something we call 40 at the 40. And we really probably would like to change the name to, it started as 40 at the 40, because we've had, during the pandemic, we've had two virtual events. We try to have 4 a year, but during the pandemic, we've changed things. We've had 40 people come. And basically the concept is that we have a presentation by local charities, and they talk about what they're about, what they need funds for. And then each of us who comes to the event puts $100 into the pot, and we decide how that money is going to be distributed amongst the charities that are presenting that night. We try to be as distributed. It's not an all or none thing for any charity, so we do things like that. We give people some money, but at the same time, I think it identifies for people the different charitable causes outside of those 3 big people in our town, and also gives us an opportunity to preach the gospel of the Niagara Community Foundation and what it's doing in Grimsby to those 40. And hopefully they go out from there and spread the word. So we've had everything from a musical performance online, and presentation about mental health. We had a vodka tasting event online and presentation from another. We thought that mental health was really important during the pandemic, so we did that as well. So we hope and look forward to being able to get those going again. But our next step in Grimsby is really to divide and conquer with our 10 active committee members and draw upon the strength of each of those people, you know, in the different areas that we need to spread the word, and also look for prospective fund holders. And also one of the things in Grimsby also that we are actively doing is trying to help the local smaller charities in particular learn how they can take advantage of the funds available through the Niagara Community Foundation. So I think that we got 3 other people from our committee on here. Andrea, Patrick, and Amanda are all here, so they might want to add something. Well,
I think you summed it up pretty good, Don.
Yeah.
I don't think we've finished our work. We see that there's lots to do. And Andrea, anything else?
No, just I think it was really neat how we pivoted something that was successful in person to an online format in COVID. So in person, it worked so well because people came because they had their immediate bucket filled, right? So you show up, you give $100. So right away, you're having that experience of giving and contributing. You see the presentations, you know exactly who that money is going towards. You're part of the process of choosing the direction of that money. You're there with friends, you get a glass of wine. So it's like, check, check, check. You know, you go home feeling like, wow, that was lovely. I got to see so-and-so. And then all of a sudden in COVID, it's like, well, how do we still check those boxes? And thanks to Don's heroic efforts and some great networking, you know, we were able to still have that same experience where people were doing things fun in community, seeing faces. You know, the musical aspect touched me so much, like you forget how much you enjoy having, you know, live music in your life. Right. So it was really great how I think this community came together to find a way to not only, you know, preach the gospel, but give to everyone who was willing to come in a very immediate way. And that's what our committee has really started to try and focus our efforts is, you know, how can we create an immediate benefit in addition to the long term? You know, we all know the long-term benefits of the investment, but how do you give them something right now that they feel a part of, that brings people together? So that's where I think this little initiative had great merit.
I like the way that your invitations support the local wine industry in the area as well, sort of visually. This sort of great sort of visual.
It's been fun, and it is work, but I think it's the way that we're going to have people going out and talking about the Niagara Community Foundation is by having these gatherings.
I'll just give a
Effectively gets the whole community talking about it, because we have the 40, however many people are there, and then they'll, you know, what were you doing last night? Oh, I went to this event, and then hopefully it's, you know, it's organically getting the word out in Grimsby. That's the goal.
Yeah.
I'll just give a shout out to Patrick as well. It's not on this slide, but just recently he was able to make the connection with the Rotary Club, and have Brian come out and speak to Rotary as well, just to kind of give a quick kind of 101 on what the foundation is, and you know what it does in the community. And so that was, again, that's a really another great example of just really getting the word out there, getting in front of an audience, and being able to kind of share that good news, so to speak. So yeah, thanks, Pat, again for that connection.
No problem.
Sorry, can I add one thing? I know you, Suzanne, you know I like to talk. My advice in listening to, and Brian and Suzanne know that many years of asking people for money. One of the things about your great letter in Port Colborne is, I think there's a next step to any letter you send out. You don't expect that they're going to follow up. You need to follow up with the people you sent the letter to. A letter is a very easy thing to read, appreciate, but do nothing about. So I think that you need to, if I can give my 2 cents worth, follow up with those people individually.
Yeah, and we'll be meeting to strategize.
Don't assume that they're a no.
Yeah.
We appreciate the feedback, Don, and maybe we'll engage you a little further with the rest of our committee members to see what you might have in mind regarding an appropriate follow-up.
Yeah, I know some people have to head out,
Yeah.
and so I appreciate that, the time. And I think we could there'd be lots more that we can chat about in regards to sharing some ideas. And I might carry on as a bit of this conversation by email as well, of just kind of summarizing a little bit of what we've talked about today, some of those good ideas that have been shared, and being able to meet with all of you. We're all having our individual committee meetings in the next 2 weeks, next week, 2 weeks, where we're going to kind of just carry on this conversation. What have we learned from listening today, and you know, what kind of things can we be inspired by to carry on?
Right.
So I think this really is a start of a conversation that all of us will carry on in our own individual communities, and then hopefully we can come back together. My goal is that we continue to meet. I would like for us to meet twice a year, is kind of my initial suggestion, is ways of being able to touch base. We'll start off this annual, you know, being able to just connect once or twice a year, and be able to hear each other's ideas, what we've been doing, and where we're going from there, and what we want to, you know, how we can just spur each other on, really.
Great.
So yeah, this has been really, really helpful and really a great opportunity. Andrew, you have to go, that's fine. So the next steps from here, again, we're each going to go have our individual committee meetings. One of the other ideas that I'm just going to float past you guys as well, and Debbie, you really spoke to this when you talked about the 2-tier aspect, right, of the work that we do, both being connected to to Niagara Community Foundation and then our individual local community funds. Part of our communications review that we did this spring was really some feedback of recognizing that we don't really do a great job at that Niagara-wide promotion, right? Promoting the fact that we are Niagara-wide, and specifically the Niagara Fund. We have a Niagara Fund as well as our local community funds, and that's money that can be used, you know, across the region. And so there was definitely some feedback as to, you know, what are some ways that we can also be promoting and or strategizing about promoting some of that great, grander, bigger picture as well, the region wide. And so one suggestion that has been floated, and I'm really just going to lay the seed, and we don't really even need to go much further than that, was really to kind of have representation from these different local community funds, to have a Niagara Fund kind of working committee that would meet once, twice a year, something like that, where again, representation from each of the local community funds can just start to strategize about, are there ways that we can be promoting that second tier in a strategic way. Of course, the whole foundation, we're doing various different things out into the community, but that's something that we're just wanting to kind of float past you as to, is there an opportunity for that kind of promotion as well, and again, cultivating this network as and this kind of sharing of ideas, and being able to really be able to brainstorm collectively together. So I'll throw that out there. We'll talk about it at our individual committees, but just wanted to kind of put be in your bonnet so that you can have that to circulate. So unless there's other closing comments or others that want to share, Claudia?
Furthering that, because I've been racking my brains, I would like each committee member to think about that, how they identify. I sit on the Meals on Wheels and a couple of years ago, Meals on Wheels was picked as the recipient of the funds earned during the Smile the Cookie promotion. Tim Hortons, they market so well. We thought, $1 a cookie. We're only 18,000 people here in Port Colborne. We get a couple $1,000, that'd be great, because the campaign's only on for 70. You know that we made over $10,000 in 1 week?
Wow.
It was amazing. So why is Tim Horton, and again, this year it was the Air Cadets or whatever, but why is it Tim Horton? They must really have their thinking caps on all the time. You relate, and I would hope that the Niagara Community Foundation could think of something that wherever you go in Niagara, Niagara Community Foundation is here. When you go into the cities and the service clubs are on the board, can the Niagara Community Foundation be one of the symbols on that board, welcoming you to their city? I thought of why not have a community foundation week where every day or for 1 week, you top up your grocery bill with a couple of bucks. I don't think we can go out and do all that, but something like that, where it's on everybody's minds every time they buy groceries during the first week in October. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Claudia, yeah, that's exactly that's the kind of ideas that we want to generate and be able to kind of, again, we're all working towards the same goal, right? We all in all reaches of the region, we all have that same common goal of promoting that. And so yeah, being able to share them of those ideas is really, really a great place that we would like to go. Okay, well, thank you all. This has been really, really a pleasure to be with you, to meet with you in this virtual format, but still it's better than nothing. And
thanks for all your hard work and keeping us going and keeping us focused. You're the glue that holds it all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're terrific.
Absolutely. So we'll see you all next week whenever we meet as individual committees, and we'll carry the conversation on from there.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.